Hey, it's been a while. Let's get into it. I'm a fan of Autograph, especially the first three albums. And I've actually met Steve Lynch, their lead guitarist. And I really liked him. He was a super nice guy. He put on a clinic back in the mid to late 80s. And it was really cool. I'm sure this is an old story to people, but this popped up on my news feed and I found it kind of intriguing. I was aggressively informed that Eddie's technique, you're not allowed to play it on the tour, or else. Former Autograph guitar maestro Steve Lynch on theory, technique, and life as a tapping pioneer. This was published 2 days ago. Lynch was a trailblazer for two-handed tapping, but when his band opened for Van Halen, Lynch was prohibited by Van Halen management from using his trademark technique, a ban that was later lifted at the behest of Eddie himself. So that says a lot. It wasn't Eddie's ego, it was more management being very protective. By the time Steve Lynch burst onto the scene with Autograph, he was nearly 30, a relative dinosaur compared to some of the young bucks he was up against. But no matter, Lynch's style, which includes a dizzying array of arpeggios, triads, and intervals, stood out from the pack. Lynch was so slick that by the time Autograph's 1984 banger Sign In Please was released, his greatest foe was Eddie Van Halen, who happened to be Lynch's brother in two-handed tapping heroics. Quote, when our tour with Van Halen started, I was asked by their management, are you Steve Lynch, the one who wrote The Right Touch, a 1982 instructional book with the full title, The Right Touch, The Art of Hammering Notes with the Right Hand, 1982, 4 years after 1978's release of Van Halen's first album. I said, yes, I am, Lynch says. I was then aggressively informed, that's Eddie's technique. You're not allowed to play it on this tour. Or else. I was pissed that I couldn't play something that I had created. So later on, I confronted Eddie about it, to which he replied, I had no idea they put those restrictions on you. I'll call the dogs off. I graciously thanked him and played whatever I wanted for the rest of the tour. I'll never know if he was telling the truth. I don't care. We hit it off well after that. And management's been known to do that. I mean, hell, there's stories all the time of managers and bodyguards and stuff like going way over and just kind of getting a little power hungry and messing with people who are not as seen as important as the people they're protecting or work for. While Autograph's time in the limelight was short, their influence remains. Sure, they couldn't duplicate the breakneck success of Turn Up the Radio, but that hasn't stopped Lynch from making it known that greatest hits aside, Autograph mattered. I agree. Actually, I like Turn Up the Radio. I like Blondes in Black Cars because they had an album called That's the Stuff. But the third album, Loud and Clear, to me, I think that's their best album. Oh, we played in other bands before our Sunset Strip days, but Autograph were different, Lynch says. We went from guys playing and rehearsing together for fun to opening for Van Halen. Suddenly we were driving across the United States in a dilapidated Winnebago to play in front of an 18,000 seat sold out venue, opening for the biggest band in the world. We didn't even have a name yet. On that treacherous journey, we devised a name we could use, Autograph. Then RCA signed us to a 3-album deal package at Madison Square Garden. Who would have thought? Measuring our importance is hard, but we earned the right to be there. And those 3 albums, all 3 of the albums that were released through RCA Victor, are really good albums. Like I said, I know that the attention goes to Turn Up the Radio, but I absolutely love Loud and Clear. They had a couple of singles off of it. They were actually in a movie it was some body switch movie with Kirk Cameron and what's that guy's name? The guy who was an author. And anyway, there was a body switch movie, and The kid in his dad's body, I think, ends up going to a concert, and at the concert was Autograph. They were doing She Never Looked That Good for Me from the Loud and Clear album. But I digress. Taking some time away from his ongoing solo work and potential plans for an Autograph reunion, Steve Lynch dialed in with Guitar World to discuss his approach to guitar, the recording of his finest solos, and more. Describe the early evolution of your style. Quote, "The spark was lit when the Beatles played on Ed Sullivan's show in 1964. I swear to you, everybody from the hair metal generation, it was the damn Beatles. It was the Beatles. Gene Simmons, Stephen Lynch, I mean, so many of those guys. They saw the Beatles and Ed Sullivan, saw the girls go nuts and went, that's what I want to do." My older sister had some of her cute girlfriends over to watch, and when I saw their reaction to the performance, I thought, that's what I want to do. I swear to God, it's the same story over and over. And that's when I received an acoustic made of particle board from the Sears and Roebuck catalog, with strings so high off the neck you had to stand on them to make a note come out. My style evolved when I stopped listening to other guitarists and started listening to jazz, which guided me in an obscure direction. But when Autograph formed, I had to abandon my progressive side for a more commercially accepted side. It didn't bother me much, though I had to pay the rent somehow. And when I saw Steve Lynch do his guitar clinic, he was talking about the importance of being able to read music, because there were a lot of his contemporaries at that time, and I believe George Lynch, he may have mentioned, who were extremely talented guitarists, but couldn't exactly read music, that they just kind of wrote based on riffs they would come up with, but if you handed them sheet music, they wouldn't know what was going on. And Lynch, who I believe has actually done score work for certain movies, nothing major, but some movies, he was talking about the importance of reading music. And he's not wrong. I was in a band with a guy who he would sit there with his guitar, and he would write out these notes, and he would like just sitting there cross-legged on his bed writing his notes. And then he had one of those tablets that had the bars on them, and he would write the notes as he played, which was it was like magic to me. I was beyond impressed. What are the origins of your two-handed tapping technique? Quote, "I first saw Harvey Mandel playing around it at a sound check at a club in downtown Seattle in the early 70s. That's what first inspired me. Then I saw a local guy named Steve Buffington experimenting with it, which made me pursue it more. But Emmett Chapman, the inventor of the stick, made me immerse myself in it. He did a clinic at the Guitar Institute of Technology, now known as the Musicians Institute, and I was awestruck by the sound he created. I immediately began to train my hand and began writing the two-hand theory, including arpeggios, triads, chord inversions, scales, intervals, and double stops. Question, did being well-versed in music theory aid in crafting solos? Answer, I would have never been able to create the solos I did without my knowledge, without my theory knowledge. But I didn't necessarily think about theory when creating them, it just happened. I never created a solo with a guitar in my hands. I would have the band play a couple of bars with vocals before the solo, and then play through the solo section, and then come back in with like a couple of bars after the solo with vocals, all while I recorded it. Then I'd take that recording home and listen to it until I heard the solo unfold in my mind. I then built the solo part by part until I felt it was complete. Can you recount the recording of your Turn Up the Radio solo? Answer, it took me 5 8-hour days to create that solo. Whenever I thought I had it, I'd listen to it the next day, and then it sucked. Man, that's got to be brutal, being your own worst critic. I knew the song could be a hit, so I wanted the perfect solo. At the end of the 5th day, I listened to the recording I'd done at home and realized I had it. I went into the studio the next day and laid it down. I played my custom-made Charvel through a mid-60s Marshall head and a 4x12 cab with a little delay and reverb from the outboard gear. I doubled the solo, as I always do. On the first track, we ran the Stutter 2-inch analog machine at 101% speed to be slightly below pitch when I played back at normal speed. We recorded at 99% on the second track, so it was slightly above pitch when played back. This gave the illusion there was a phaser or a flanger applied. That's pretty neat. Question, what combination of guitar amps, pedals, and guitars are you using now? Quote, I'm not touring now, so I'm not using any particular amps, just my Headrush and Roland GR55 guitar synth for recording. But I'm also looking into the latest version of Guitar Rig and Amplitude for my home recordings. At the moment, I'm way too busy to tour, but that may very well change soon, as my favorite guitars are the ones I had custom made by Dale Roberts from his shop in Jacksonville, Florida. They are perfect for my hands and sound the best for the two-handed technique, which requires a lot of output and sustain. I also use my Strats, Les Pauls, or whatever others I have lying around. Question, is it a challenge to create new music for a low attention span world? Fair question. A quote, there are no obstacles with the internet and social media to promote your material worldwide and the convenience of recording from your home. You don't need a record contract. You can write and record with anyone at any time, anywhere. One slice of advice is to release singles one at a time and do your best on the writing, performance, and arrangement and production for each. If you wish to complete a full collection of songs, that's fine, but most people will never listen to the whole album. And that really is a shame. I'm a big album guy. I mean, I'm older. I was a teenager in the 80s. And so I really am not a fan of an album that has one or two good songs on it. Whereas you could have a couple of great songs and the rest album is, terrific. I mean, to go after one that most people know is like Zeppelin 4. Zeppelin 4 has a couple of songs that really, really stand out to people, but the album as a whole has this kind of vibe to it, and from the first song you actually want to travel through the album and you want to hear those deep cuts. You want to hear Battle of Evermore and Four Sticks. You want to hear those songs because it's all kind of a testament to the moment that it was created, and I miss albums like that. Do you feel beholden to your past? I don't feel obligated to do anything I've previously done because I've evolved musically. The past doesn't define who I am. I'm very grateful for the success I've had with Autograph and will always cherish those memories, and may again someday, but I'm not reliant on it. Most musicians who genuinely love their craft feel the same. I'm completely comfortable where I am because I think new adventures await everywhere. So the question is, what's next for you? Quote, I'm still writing for my project, Blue Neptune, which will be a solo effort. I see it as a modern day The Dark Side of the Moon, which is my favorite album. It will be singles, and there's potential for me to revisit a reformed Autograph. I never ruled that out, but it would not be with the current lineup who are performing as Autograph. It would be a fresh start with new personnel with a different perspective. Only time will tell. Other than that, I'm just a kid who, against all odds, dug out a name from the rubble. I am incredibly grateful for it, but I'm still that kid from Seattle who went to LA to follow a dream and found it. I know Lynch is talking about that if he did Autograph, he'd reform with new personnel. I will tell you the other Steve in the band, Steve Plunkett, who is the guitarist and also the lead singer on their first, I know all the way up through Buzz, which I believe was their fifth album. And the thing about it is with Plunkett, you need Steve Lynch because Buzz had a whole crew and Plunkett was the only constant one. And the thing about it is, I know that Steve Plunkett was the primary songwriter. He is the voice, but Buzz definitely lacks something. And then when you listen to current Autograph where they don't have Plunkett, it's Autograph and name only. You really need Stephen Plunkett, but you also need Steve Lynch. You need those two guys, and I'm sure a couple other guys in the band, not to dismiss the people who were playing on those early albums. But Lynch's attention to detail with Plunkett's brilliant songwriting and just gift for melody and gift for writing songs, those are essential for a proper autograph album. Again, they never topped Turn Up the Radio. It's disappointing that they were a quote-unquote one-hit wonder. But Blondes and Black Cars, you know, like I said, when they go from, like I said before, when they went from Sign In Please to That's the Stuff, I thought it really culminated in Loud and Clear. Loud and Clear was such a fantastic album. That album, they had released a single for the song Loud and Clear. And like I mentioned before, they had She Never Looked That Good for Me, which was in a movie Like Father, Like Son. Now It Comes to Me. Like Father, Like Son. That was the movie with Dudley Moore playing the dad, and Kurt Cobain playing the son. And but yeah, She Never Looked. But I mean, Every Time I Dream, She's a Tease, Just Got Back from Heaven, which is probably my favorite song on the album, More Than a Million Times. I'm telling you, that song, that album is a fantastic album. And apparently that was the last album to because like there was a 10-year gap between their last album for RCA and the album that came out in 1997. They released on Pavement, and it just, I mean, it was supposed to come out in 89. RCA decided not to put it out, but what you come to find out subsequently, listening to any Autograph album post, post Loud and Clear, is that they are a band who need the entire unit. Everybody played their role in that band, because those three albums are just so good. They're quintessential hard rock albums. You pick up any one, you're not going to be disappointed with it. If you're a fan, and to be honest, if you're a fan of Turn Up the Radio, all three of those albums stand up. They just do this good time heavy metal rock and roll that's just so much fun to listen to. But anyway, that article came across, and I just thought I'd share it with you guys. And I hope you're doing well. Haven't talked to you all in a while, and hopefully be talking to you soon. Later.